All right, so this is a quick video for your Section 2 notes in Chapter 1 of Biology. So your objectives, we're going to summarize 4 major unifying themes of biology, and then we're going to give an example of each of those themes. So just got some definitions and some short answer things to talk about. So your first definition here, a system is a group of related parts that work together to make a whole. So there's lots of different kinds of systems in biology and out of biology, because, it could be anything from like a car engine to, our school, and how everybody has their job and their role, and together we all work together to function. But in biology, we're going to be talking about things like ecosystems, biological systems that include both living and non-living things. So it's a lot more like that school example than like the engine with all its moving parts, right? So biological system that includes both living and non-living things. So we got to have examples of ecosystems, and there could be hundreds of those, right? So you're supposed to be able to come up with a few, but I can give you a couple examples. You should just throw a few more in that you can think of. But you could have a forest. You could have a grassland like we live in, right? You could have a desert. You could have water ecosystems. So you got lakes, oceans, streams, whatever you want to talk about. Right? There are millions of examples, and they also could go right back to those examples of the biosphere that you had before, because even your own body is an ecosystem, right? Because all those bacteria that live in you and on you and actually help you to do the things that you need to do. So lots of different examples you could use. Make sure you throw in a few of your own. But other themes, structure and function, how are they related? So this comes down to like give an example, structure, function, some of the major ones that you could use, and I'd like you to come up with your own. Maybe I'll make you on your homework quiz or a quiz later on. Give me an example. You can't use the one that I gave you in your notes. So I don't know if I'd actually do that. But you got to think of things like how your ear is perfectly shaped to funnel sound to your eardrums. So you can actually hear something, right? Structure and function are related, right? Your ear is stationary, but your dog can move their ear around, or your cat, so that they can pinpoint where that noise came from. So structure and function, always related. So you can use a lot of different examples of your own with your own body, right? Your teeth, for example, would be a good thing to use here, because you have some sharp teeth, you have some flat teeth, and sharp teeth versus flat teeth is pretty important, because are you going to tear apart and eat flesh, or are you going to munch down on that vegetable, right? So lots of different animals, based on the teeth that you see, you can tell what diet they have, because structure and function are related. So teeth are related to diet. You could give specific examples, like the cow with its flat teeth and how it's going to ruminate and chew that cud over and over again to get all that energy out of the grass that you would never be able to get. But you eat other things, right? You're able to tear apart meat with your sharper teeth and chew it, right? So to help your digestive system. But when it's all said and done, carnivores have sharp teeth, and those herbivores have the flat, dull teeth. So lots of different examples. Put in some of your own as well. Homeostasis. Living things have to maintain internal conditions, right? So a few internal conditions that need to be maintained, right? You need to maintain a constant temperature. That's what the question down below is for, right? You need to have the same pH, right? So you actually know a little bit about pH probably. You know that your stomach is acidic, right? You know that possibly that in your intestines you actually have a relatively high pH, right? A basic solution in your intestines because you're trying to do different things in your stomach than you are in your intestines. You're absorbing different nutrients in those different places. But for the rest of your body, you need near neutral solutions because you don't want to tear apart proteins and things like that. You can't have acidic solutions in your cells, it tear things up. So you got to maintain a constant pH. Your cells need to bring in nutrients and kick out waste. You can't have too many of those toxic things in your system. They need to get removed, right? Bring in nutrients. And expel waste. So lots of different examples. Those are just a few actually. So it says down below, you have to maintain a core temperature of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit so that all of the aspects of your metabolism can function correctly. You can overheat, you can be too cold. So explain how your body accomplishes this feat. What happens when you get too hot? What happens when you get too cold? We already know that because those were our stimulus response things. When you're too hot, you tend to sweat as that water evaporates off your skin and actually pulls quite a bit of energy from your skin, from your body directly, which is actually why sweating does you absolutely nothing when you're in humid conditions. Right, so if anyone who's vacationed somewhere where it's really humid, actually it was kind of humid here this summer, but sweat isn't always effective, right? When you're too cold, you're going to shiver, you're going to have goosebumps. Those are just a few things that your body can do to help maintain that temperature. Right? So anytime you're trying to maintain internal conditions, it's homeostasis. That's a word you need to learn and you need to know. Evolution is a change in living things over time. It's a change in a population, not in individuals, right? So this is a big topic in biology, and trust me, I know, right? Evolution can be kind of a touchy subject, but when it comes down to it, it's a real thing. Now, what we normally observe is microevolution, small changes in living things over time. We infer that other larger changes can happen, and it is probable that that's true, but we don't really necessarily have solid evidence for that because it would take millions of years to observe one species turning into another. So it's not something that we're ever likely to have any evidence for either. So just be comfortable with the idea because we know it's true. We see it happen all the time. Adaptations are inherited characteristics that give an advantage to an individual. You need a couple of examples of adaptations, right? This is one for sure I need you to come up with your own, right? So I'm going to give you an example here, but you cannot use it in a quiz. So one of the main adaptations for a human is your thumb, right? The fact that you have an opposable thumb, and I'm actually going to fix that. I'm going to say opposable thumb. Because it has to be useful that way. It has to help you with your dexterity to manipulate tools because that opposable thumb allows you to do that. And you're supposed to have an example of an adaptation here. What does it help you do, right? You could have a specific example, right? Without your opposable thumb, it'd be really hard to write this answer. Without your opposable thumb, it would be hard for you to button up a shirt. You probably have never even thought about how difficult that would be without your thumb, right? Using a zipper on your book bag would be almost impossible without your thumbs, right? So we take it for granted, but that thumb is definitely an adaptation. It gives you an advantage because it allows you to do those things. You can write this answer. You can write in your notes because you have it. But in order to use that thumb, you also had to have another adaptation, right? Your ability to learn and think are actually a huge adaptation for humans as well, right? The fact that we're smarter than those other organisms is what's helped us be at the top for the most part. But we didn't have to be smart until we started using our hands to do things like writing or using simple stone tools or anything else, right? You don't have to be smart when you're just running around on all fours. Evolution explains both the unity and diversity of life. This is one of those things that it's definitely hard to answer. So this is one of the things I would normally give you the answer anyway, not just because I'm not here today in class, but unity and diversity, right? Both things can be explained by evolution, right? The first one, unity, all living things are similar. And they're similar for a reason, right? We don't actually assume that plants read their DNA the same way that you do, that the codes that are written into that DNA are exactly the same as yours, that they have cells with the same kind of cell parts that your cells have. We don't think that that's just a huge coincidence. We think that it's likely that any living thing that has something in common with another living thing is probably related to that other living thing, even if it's distantly related. So living things are similar because they're all related. Again, you're probably thinking more along the lines that we're more closely related to, say, like a chimpanzee than to a dog, than to a snake, than to a tree. But all living things do share certain things. On the cellular level, at the very least, we have common structures that can't really be explained just by coincidence. It's not likely or even possible that that could be a coincidence. So evolution explains that all those living things are related, ultimately, but it also explains how all of those different things are so different as well. Because just because we once were similar, just because all of those things ultimately share a common ancestor, doesn't mean that they haven't been evolving and changing to different environments for a very long time. So things become very diverse as they evolve, right? And change to different environments. So they become diverse as they evolve to different environments. Right? Evolution is a huge topic, not only in biology, but in all of science, because it's one of the only things that connects every branch of science together, because every branch of science has contributed evidence that supports evolution. So again, definitely an important thing, but the unity is we're related. The diversity comes from us evolving to different environments, which makes us slowly change over time. And over billions of years, it's actually possible that there could be all these crazy different living things now. Okay, so that's the end of the notes. You just have to do a homework quiz for me.